All right, I'm gonna call the Public Power Hour to order, and we have got one gentleman here, and I'm not gonna read the normal information because I know he's not an instigator, and will abide by the rules. Mr. Joel Osborne, if you'd like to come forward, and I do need you to give your name and address for the record to the microphone, and feel free to share with us anything you want. Wow, this microphone is powerful. Speak in the microphone so people on TV land can, live stream can hear you. Now do.
Do I have to repeat it?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Joel Osborne, and I live at 656 Railroad Avenue in North Augusta. And before I have my little spiel here, I'd like to thank each one of y'all for what y'all have done over the years. I really appreciate it. I know you get a lot of heat, but I think you've done great, and I support you.
Thank you.
I'm a member of the North Augusta Cultural Arts Council, and we're planning a Veterans Concert November the 8th, which is Monday, at the Grace United Church. And the council wants to offer each one of y'all a special invitation to come, and I have a flyer here which I'd like to hand out to you if I could.
Yeah.
And we'll have a place up front for special guests. If you want to come sit up there, and I think each one of you is special. So if you want to come up there and sit, that's fine. If you don't, you can sit with your family or friends. But we're planning it right now, and I think maybe y'all have been to it before, but it's really a good ceremony. We honor the veterans, current and past. So if you can come, we'd sure appreciate it. And I'd like to just hand out the flyers.
And what day is that?
It's Monday, November the 8th.
At what time?
It's 7:30 at
Okay.
Grace Church.
So, great. You know, our meetings are at 6 o'clock on Monday. So,
Okay.
if,
Well, if
so
you
hopefully we can, if we get out by then,
Right.
then that's good to know.
And there's a little, on the bottom of the form, you see if you want to cut it out, if you want to honor somebody, you can fill in the blanks and make a donation, I think, of $10, and they'll read the name during, part of the service. So,
Can we get these back to you?
no, well, just bring it with you, or maybe there's an address, you can mail it in, or,
Okay.
Well, I've been to the River Winds. It's a wonderful program.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
very end, everybody, depending on where you serve, staying, they play the
Right.
song for your, I mean, it's pretty powerful.
it is very emotional for some, and so, we'd like for y'all to come, it's good, appreciate it, and that's all I have to say. Okay? Okay? Thank you very
Joel.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'd like to call the October 4th, 2021 City of North Augusta Council meeting to order. You are welcome to join me in prayer. Dear God, I lift up this council to you, Lord. I ask that we have a servant heart that is open to discern what is in the best interest as we do the work of the city. I ask that you give us a purposeful resolve as we listen to our citizens and each other as we strive to honor you in our decisions. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we'll have a roll call going from my far left. Please say your name for the record.
Eric Presnell.
David McGee.
Pat Carpenter.
Britton Williams.
Bob Brooks.
Jennifer McCauley.
Kevin Toole.
Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the regular city council meeting minutes of September the 20th, 2021? The fiscal year 2022 budget study session minutes of September the 21st, 2021, or the study session minutes of September the 27th, 2021? Hearing none, they stand approved as distributed. All right, this is going to be fun. So let me tell you how we're going to do this. In a minute, I'm gonna ask Patrick, you and Bonnie, if y'all want to come on down and meet Kelly and I out front. So I'm going to read a few comments. There were a couple people who cannot be here tonight, but they did send us some comments that I'm going to share with y'all. I'll say a few words myself before reading the proclamation that Kelly's son Patrick wrote. And then we will present, there'll be a plaque from the city, and then we have the Honorable Representative Bill Hickson, Senator Tom Young here for a presentation. So that's kind of what we'll be doing. So Kelly, you want to go around the front with me? Thank you. Okay. So the first email we got was from a former city councilman, Ken McDowell. Ken served from 99 through 2019. And Ken's comments is, I have known Kelly Zier for over 25 years, including over 21 years while serving as the city council. During that time, I've seen Kelly serve as a city attorney, my closing attorney, a great sertoman, a fantastic master of ceremonies numerous times, and more importantly, a friend and advisor. While Kelly's known as a good attorney, he's also known in other circles as quite a good cook. I believe cooking must come naturally to Kelly because, as we all know, attorneys are always stirring the pot. Kelly has always given me good advice. I once asked him how I could improve my golf game. He told me to take 2 weeks off and quit. Actually, Kelly has helped me on numerous occasions as a client, as a friend, and most often as a councilman. Kelly was always sincere and always had the best interest of the city in mind. I truly appreciate all the time and effort that Kelly has given the city over his 50 years as city attorney. While the city may get a new attorney one day, Kelly will never be replaced. The city of North Augusta has been fortunate to have him on our team. Thanks, Kelly, for all your service over the last 50 years. Ken McDowell. This is from Joe Lucas and Gary Pope. They're members of the Pope Flynn, who are a bond counsel. Pope Flynn has served as bond counsel to the city since our firm's founding by Margaret Pope in 2008. And Margaret served in that capacity for many years before that at her prior firm. It has been the great pleasure of many of our lawyers, Margaret Pope, Gary Pope Sr., Gary Pope Jr., Joe Lucas, Lawrence Flynn, C.D. Rhodes, and others to serve the city. And in doing so, we've had the privilege of working side by side with Kelly Zier. Kelly is not only an outstanding lawyer, but also a kind, respectful, and humble gentleman. He's a practical problem solver who keeps the interests of the city and its citizens at the forefront of all advice and counsel he provides. He displays the highest level of honesty and integrity in his service. We are grateful for the opportunity to work with the city and with Kelly, and we congratulate him on 50 years of exceptional service. Joe Lucas and Gary Pope. You know, if you want the archives of this town, you just need to go to the North Augusta Star, because it's all there. So Sharon found the article of the North Augusta Star that when Kelly was appointed city attorney. And we don't have the ability, because our system is down, to show you the picture. But the picture on there, Patrick, we all know where you came from, okay? Amazing. So here, I just want to read the two interesting points in the article, the first and third lines. From quarterbacking the North Augusta High School football teams to doing the legal quarterbacking for the North Augusta City Council is the 7-year story of North Augusta's new city attorney, Kelly Zier. Currently serving out a 3-month tour with the U.S. Army Military Police School at Fort Gordon, Zier is a first lieutenant. His military tour of duty will be over November the 15th. He plans to open an office for the general practice of law in the 506 building on Georgia Avenue. A bachelor, he resides at Carolina Terrace Apartments. Okay. Only thing I was going to say is I met Kelly when I first moved to North Augusta. A friend of mine took me to the Sertoma Club, and I met a number of folks who, you know, folks like Ken McDowell, Dale Slack, and that's actually the first time I met Kelly. And he and I have served on boards and have had dealings in a lot of different things over the years. But I told Kelly at the study session last week, I've talked to Kelly more in the last 5 months as mayor than I had the previous 25 years I've known him. I did not know kind of what the dynamic of a mayor or city attorney relationship is, and Kelly has been amazing. He's been very open and to listen to my ideas, and then very politely correcting me on what we can't do so I don't get myself and the city in legal trouble. But Kelly has been a great confidant. I tell you, it's been very nice for me. I feel very comfortable, and it's nice to know he's on my left side up here in the dais, knowing I can count on him. He's given me wonderful advice so far, and I've bounced a lot of things off of him. So, Kelly, thank you, my friend, for your service and what you've done to help me in the first 5 months, and let's keep things going, okay? Okay. All right, so Bonnie and Patrick, y'all come on up. Come on up. This proclamation, you know, the proclamation is written by our attorneys, and you can't have the city attorney write his own proclamation. I mean, I guess you could, but we got the next best thing. His son Patrick wrote this proclamation. I'd like to read this. I think it's very well done, Patrick. Whereas in September of 1971, Kelly F. Zier was hired by the city of North Augusta as its city attorney, and at the same time opened his private law practice in downtown North Augusta. And whereas Kelly F. Zier has continued to serve uninterrupted as city attorney for North Augusta in excess of 50 years, along with maintaining his private practice and raising his 3 children with his wife of more than 48 years, Bonnie Britton Zier. And whereas Kelly F. Zier has remained a constant figure in the city of North Augusta through his involvement with the First Baptist Church of North Augusta, multiple civil organizations, and numerous evenings, coaching or watching his children's sports at Lions Field, Riverview Park, and North Augusta High School. And whereas Kelly F. Zier has dedicated countless hours to the city of North Augusta in his role as city attorney, but also as a concerned citizen with a great affinity for the city in which he was raised. And whereas the city of North Augusta is extremely blessed and fortunate to have been advised by Kelly F. Zier as city attorney for the past 50 years, and the citizens of the city are fortunate to have him been affected by him. And now, therefore, I, Britton S. Williams, on behalf of the grateful citizens of the city of North Augusta, do hereby extend sincere congratulations and appreciation to Kelly F. Zier for his service, advice, and unwavering dedication to the city of North Augusta and our citizens, and call upon all citizens to congratulate, honor, celebrate, and admire with him on his more than 50 years of services as city attorney, along with his private practice in the city of North Augusta, South Carolina. Britton S. Williams, Mayor, City of North Augusta. There you go, young man. That's great. Why don't you get a picture of him right there? And just, I don't want to cut anybody off. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forward and say something, this is your opportunity before I turn it over to a couple of distinguished representatives.
They're limited to 5 minutes.
Guess who raised his hand? Yeah. Former Mayor Lark Jones, come on down. And Laura, we want to be out here by 11, so we don't have the clock up here, but Sharon's keeping clock of that. Oh, yeah.
You can see I got dressed up for this occasion. To Kelly, to tell you how much this is my best side that they're looking at. To tell you how important this event is to me, this is the second time I've come to a meeting since I left office. And the only other time was because they invited me to hang my picture up out there on the wall. Kelly kept us out of trouble, and he got us out of trouble when we wouldn't listen to him sometimes. But the fact that you've got representatives, senators, former administrators, former council members, former mayor, that says we think a lot of you.
Thank you. Judges.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Both of them up there. They didn't have their robes on like, when the Supreme Court goes in, they wear their robes. But more important than what he's done for the city as city attorney is the things that Patrick sort of alluded to throughout the other things in the community. Lawyers get a bad rap a lot of times, and Kelly has done a lot to make sure the lawyers in North Augusta are pretty well respected, as those two up there are, and hopefully I am. But more importantly to me, he has been a friend to me. Many of you have heard me say, Kelly is enough older than me, about 4 years? That whenever he had a health problem, it seemed like a year or two later, I would have the same problem. So he has been not only the city attorney, but he has been my de facto doctor along with Billy Thurman. And I would have this problem, and he'd say, don't go buy the special shoes. Plantar fasciitis. Don't go buy the special shoes. Just do these exercises, and you won't have to spend any money. He knew what kind of advice I was looking for. Here in recent months, he's even called me because I think he's begun to have a few things that I already had that he hadn't had. But in all seriousness, I think you see from the people here, the people that you've worked with for years. Charles is up there. Kelly and I used to have so much fun at North Augusta Forward, cutting up in these long 3- and 4-day meetings that finally it got to the point where Charles just wouldn't let us sit beside each other. But we had a lot of fun in the 32 years that I was here with the city and 20 years as mayor in Britain. If you think you've talked to him a lot in 5 months, just think what 20 years is like. But his counsel, his love for the city are second to none. I will say one thing and then I'll be done. When I decided not to run for mayor after 20 years, I got a lot of people that said, who is the most qualified person to be the mayor of North Augusta? And it was this man right here, but he was smart enough to realize that the city attorney made about 4 times what the mayor did, and he stayed right where he is. Kelly, I know you're not going to make 50 more, but I hope you make as many more as you want. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. And we've got a plaque here presenting to Kelly F. Zier in honor and appreciation of 50 years of dedicated service, October 1st, 1971 to October the 1st, 2021, from the mayor and city council of North Augusta, South Carolina, October 4th, 2021. So, and what I'd like to do, maybe at the end, get a picture with council and Kelly at the end, okay? So we don't, is that okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay, at this point, I'd like the esteemed Representative Bill Hickson and Senator Tom Young, either one of y'all, if you would come forward, and I'm going to give you the microphone. I believe you've got a little recognition you'd like to pass on to Mr. Zier. Y'all stay up. There you go, sir.
He said he wanted me to go first. Normally the Senate goes first, don't we? But anyway, congratulations. I have some history with you. You and I have talked about it. I remember you when I was in North Augusta Junior High which is now North Augusta Middle School, you came and helped Coach John Williams coach. I remember you had a little orange VW Volkswagen, and you were some of the first people to put some structure in my life because you made us behave and you made us run and you helped with the football team. And I will always remember that. And I ate breakfast with you. I enjoy that. I've been to many ceremony that you've been the master of ceremonies. I think you're the best one in North Augusta because you keep us laughing and you bring up some good humor and some good jokes. But I have a House resolution that my friend Richard Pierce with the House, South Carolina House Representative, helped me draw this up. And I'm not going to read it all. It's mighty long. But when the House is in recess, we can't really do a resolution with a number on it. So this is a copy of what I'm going to do for you and have it framed when we go back in session in January. But I wanted to thank you for my years of friendship with you and your wife and all your children, because I felt like I grew up with you, and I enjoy eating breakfast with you every day, and you're my true friend. We sort of been around the corner from each other. You're on West Avenue, and I'm on Spring Grove Avenue. But I want to thank you as a citizen, and I want to thank you as an elected official for what you do for North Augusta, and I hope you do many more years of this. So thank you. I want to give you that.
Thank y'all very much. I'm honored to be here. My name's Tom Young, and I represent the South Carolina Senate District 24 in the South Carolina Senate. And I'm honored to be here tonight to recognize Mr. Kelly Zier for his 50 years of serving the city of North Augusta. For those of you that may or may not know, but 50 years is a long time to do anything. But it certainly is a long time to have a client for 50 years, a client that has valued him for 50 years just as much as he has valued the client for 50 years. So anyway, I wanted to be here tonight. I have brought you something from the South Carolina Senate that Senator Massey and I put together, and it is something that we, like Representative Hickson said earlier, we can't file any formal resolution right now because neither the Senate or the House is in session, but we put this together from the South Carolina Senate and wanted to present you with it. And I wanted to point out that it does say that Mr. Kelly Zier is highly regarded in the legal profession for his, number one, his integrity, number two, his judgment, number three, his acumen, number four, his professionalism, and number five, his counsel. And I think that those five attributes are some of the highest accolades that anybody who's a lawyer could ever receive. And I think that you are a walking embodiment of what those five things are. And you are a tremendous value to the legal profession. You are tremendous to the city of North Augusta and to your family and to Aiken County, to this region, and frankly to the state of South Carolina. And on behalf of the South Carolina Senate, I want to present you with this recognition. Wish you many, many more years of service, as long as you want to serve, as Mayor Jones said. And if there's anything I can do for you or your family, you let me know. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's your turn. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Would you like to go? You can stay up there. All right. I've got a 5-minute limit too, so I'll keep it at that. This morning I was talking to staff, and I think the first thing I have to say is it's been easy, and it's been easy because of where I am and the people I've worked with. I've looked up here. I think I've worked for 7 mayors, 5 city administrators. I'm not sure. I think it's 5 city clerks. I'm not sure. The staff, the entire city staff has always been good. And I was telling them this morning, I really don't know that I've ever gotten that call that I know that a lot of city attorneys have, where you're asked to do something that's just not right. And that's because I've worked with good people. Excuse me. And it's always been that way. And I know that it's going to stay that way. Whether it's the mayors, whether it's the council members. And I tell you, when I first started, we would go one election, some Republicans would get elected, next election some Democrats would be elected. We had a pretty viable two-party system at that time. But the thing I always noticed, 90 days after the election, you didn't have Democrats and you didn't have Republicans. You had North Augustans. And they learned that, because sometimes the election would be pretty vicious. And there were things said that maybe shouldn't have been said, but they'd get in, they'd learn one another, they'd know who they were working with, and they know that everybody was concerned about the city. And so it became very easy. Thinking back, just so Lark, you'll know that the retainer that I got when I first took this job, and I will tell you, I was looking, had finished the bar exam, and I was in Columbia, and the fellow that I was rooming with up there, who's now the city attorney in Forest Acres, I think, handed me the newspaper and said, you might want to look at this. It was in the state. North Augusta was looking for a city attorney, and they couldn't find anybody to take the job. So I said, well, that might be a pretty good opportunity. And I came down and talked to Ray Walters, who was the mayor at that time, and I said, Mayor, I've taken the bar exam, and I feel pretty good about it, but we won't get results till sometime in September. And they said, well, he said, we'll wait on you and see what happens. So September 21, I got admitted to the bar, and October 1, I started with the city with a retainer of $140 a month. And but the office that I had in the 506 building that Lark moved into sometime after that, my rent was $60 a month, and that included utilities. So it's a different world. We spent a lot of money on carbon paper, because we didn't have copy machines at that time. A lot of you have no idea what carbon paper is, probably. But and I told somebody I was looking. I looked today to make sure that the first thing I recall doing for the city, and by the way, I can't take credit for this. The mayor and council decided to do it. I was just drawing the paperwork. But in that apartment that I was in, I had a manual typewriter, and I drew the contract to purchase the land at Riverview Park. And we closed that on December the 29th, 1971, the first portion, and then we did some others after that. And, just everything that's happened and along the years, it's really been wonderful. Bonnie's had my back all the time. The nights I'm down here, once we got the cell phones, I could text her and say, well, go ahead and heat up the food, and I'll be home in a little while. Or else I'd said, go ahead and put the food away. I'm not going to be home for a while. And took care of that. Then with my children, Patrick's here tonight, and got a daughter, Jennifer, in Greenville, and Britton here in town also. They made it easy. I never got that embarrassing call, and they always told me, well, we can't do anything in this town, because if we did it, you'd know it before we ever got home. So it's been good. I've had a good family behind me. I've had good people to work with, and you can't ask for much more. And I've enjoyed my 50 years. When I get to the point I don't enjoy it or I can't do it anymore, I'll look for something else. But for right now, I'm enjoying it and plan to continue. I know I had a few other things written down. For all of you that have come tonight, I very much appreciate that. And I know particularly after you've gotten away from having to be down here on Monday nights, you hate to come back down. There's other things to do. But I do appreciate you doing that. And to Tom and Bill, I appreciate what you've done for me there. Richard, good job putting this together, and Patrick, I'm gonna thank you for that too. You did a good job. So I think that's all I've got to say. at my retirement party in about 15 years, I'll say a little more and run some other things by you. Thank you very much.
See, I told you that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right, let me put some of this on here. So. All right. Told Kelly, I told you that'd be fun. All right, so. Unfinished business. Item number 6, Parks, Recreation, Tourism. We tabled this last week. So what I would ask is that, is there a motion to remove this from the table?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Presnell, Mr. Toole. Okay, all in favor? That is unanimous. So, resolution number 2021-38, authorizing a professional services agreement for design of a boat dock in Riverside Village. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Ms. Carpenter, second. Who was first?
Take a wild guess.
Mr. President. Okay. Anything you'd like to share with us about this, Ms. Clifford?
Mr. Mayor, I think this is an item we discussed in a study session, but to get everybody back up to speed here on council and for our citizens, this is an agreement for us to enter into an arrangement with Cranston Engineering, which is our engineering services of record for Riverside Village, and this allows us to more concretely plan what the boat dock is going to look like. And it's not just a simple matter of throwing some parts in the river. There's going to be some electrical, there's geotechnical work, there's civil work that goes along with that. So ultimately, Cranston is going to help get us to a final product. Just in open transparency, this is not the cost of the dock itself. This is all the preparatory design work for the dock. The dock will be a separate expense. But this allows us to at least move the ball to get us closer to having a dock as a reality here in Riverside Village in North Augusta.
Great. Any comments from citizens? Okay, any council discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you all. Item number 7, annexation. Ordinance number 2021-12. To change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the landowners and annexing plus or minus 3.03 acres of property located at 1295 West Martintown Road and owned by M.B. Jones Oil Company, Inc. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Mr.
I'll
Brooks is
second.
the first. Mr. McGee, second. Anything you'd like to share with us on this, Ms. Clifford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a second reading of the annexation request from the business, which is a gas station there in Edgefield County, north of I-20 on Martintown Road. The staff feels this is a positive annexation and brings additional business into the city, and we believe this should be approved by council, subject to your vote.
Any citizen comments? Okay, any council discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8, Ordinance number 2021-13, to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina by rezoning plus or minus 7.25 acres of land owned by S&H Enterprises, Aiken County tax parcel number 013-20-03-004 from IND Industrial to TC Thoroughfare Commercial. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Mr. Toole?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGee. Anything you'd like to share about this, Mr. Clifton?
Mr. Mayor, this is a zoning action that will support the addition of a Kia car dealership to the city of North Augusta. So again, if you look down on Route 1 now, you'll have the former Toyota dealership is being taken down, and this zoning action allows for us to make that entire set of land available for the Kia dealership to be able to relocate and start to build on that location. So we as a staff believe this is a positive item, and our recommendation is to approve this zoning request.
Okay. Any citizen comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item 9, zoning. Ordinance number 2021-14, to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina by rezoning plus or minus 4.45 acres of land owned by the city of North Augusta, Aiken County tax parcels number 007-07-06-003, 007-07-00, 007-07-06-004, and parcel 007-07-06005 from GC General Commercial and R14 Large Lot Single Family to P Public Use. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Mr. McGee, a first, a second.
Second.
Mr. Brooks, anything you'd like to share on this, Mr. Clifford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So this is a zoning action that was requested by the City Council for me to take to the Planning Commission. I had a unanimous vote from the City Council to move forward on this. The Planning Commission unanimously rejected our request for public zoning. I brought this back to the City Council with that information, but the staff recommendation was still to move forward for a public zoning for the purpose of putting a public safety headquarters at that site. Our staff recommendation is unchanged, and we would request the City Council vote on this in a positive manner for us to zone this P for public.
Okay, thank you. Any citizen comments? If so, what I'd like to have you do, let me just say this. First of all, as always, very appreciative of the public being here. It's always great to see that citizens care. I've asked Ms. Lamar, our city clerk, to keep the time for me. This will be the 5th opportunity citizens have had to speak concerning the police headquarters. So I will ask you to please keep your marks to within 5 minutes and don't repeat something that's already been said by someone else tonight. We want to hear information that will help us make our decision. If we all work together, we can ensure everyone can have an opportunity to share. So if you like to speak to council, please, if you would, just raise your hand and walk forward, and I'm going to ask you to give your name and address in the microphone. Come on in.
Michael Reed, 1942 Bolin Road, North Augusta.
Good to see you, Mr. Reed, again.
Nice
to see you again. Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Zier, congratulations. I cannot imagine being in the same state, much less the same job. Okay. Great job. I think probably all of the council members received the email that I sent them, and Mr. Clifford sent me a reply on that, which I really appreciate. This was referenced the feasibility of utilizing the MEDAC building, rather than moving forward on the Fly property, okay? You know, I just want to read part of that, okay? I don't recall any information being shared with North Augusta citizens reference the possibility of using the MEDAC building for the new public safety facility. Was it looked at and ruled out? If so, by whom, and what were their qualifications to make a determination? What were the determinants? I believe you owe it to citizens to share this information prior to making a decision to move forward on building at the Flight property. The Planning Commission voted against it twice, and people that live in that area and others have voiced their concerns regarding safety factors and building in a historic district. Logically, and I'm very simple-minded, okay? Logically, it makes sense to me to rule out utilizing MEDAC prior to committing citizens to another $16 or $17 million project. I believe most citizens agree a new public safety building is sorely needed, but building economically has to be considered as well. Mr. Clifford so graciously answered my email, and I'd like to read part of that. In his reply, he stated, I contacted the property owner and they were open to sell of the property to the city. I contacted our outside counsel and city attorney about the feasibility of purchasing the MEDAC building and asked two fundamental questions. And those questions essentially were, is it legal or advisable for the facility to purchase that property in the TIF district? And our attorneys advised that while legal, it was inadvisable to purchase that building based on the loss of revenue as part of the TIF district. He go on to say a little bit further down in his reply, the guidance I've received to date did not involve the acquisition of new properties. The guidance received was to examine city-owned properties, and I believe I've done that. And I think that's true. He has. He also stated, I missed one here. I advised the city council during an open session of these facts. I did not conduct a full financial assessment or comparison of the MEDAC to either Georgia Avenue or East Buena Vista Avenue. Okay, well, to me, you know, it would make sense to have that information. What's one versus the other cost-wise? I mean, the city of North Augusta seems to be bent on spending a whole lot of money doing a whole lot of different things. We've got Project Jackson, we have the amphitheater, and now we've got another $16-17 million for the safety facility. You know, I mean, when is that going to end? We've got, what, maybe 25,000 people in the city of North Augusta. I mean, who's going to pay for this? I'm not really convinced that Project Jackson is paying for itself or will pay for itself in the end. I think the citizens of North Augusta are going to end up footing the bill for a large piece of that. So, you know, I would ask that y'all consider looking at that, but also besides purchasing outright, what's the feasibility of leasing that facility rather than buying it outright? And if they are open to the sale of it, how much do they want? What would it cost to make the necessary renovations to house the facility there? Those are some big questions in my mind in terms of finances. Okay? So I would ask that y'all consider that information. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Who's next? Come on down, Fred.
Fred Alardi, 346 Shoreline Drive. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Zier. I know Mr. Zier probably 40, 50 years now. His wife and my wife played bridge this morning, and so I got a recap of everything that was going on before the fact. So it's a wonderful thing to have accomplished. Somewhere around 3:50, I received a text or an email from Mr. Clifford. I'd like to go over that. Basically, I seem to be a catalyst right now in trying to get the city to save money. And although people ask me why, I come from a very practical background. My grandparents were immigrants. My parents lived, when I grew up, I lived in a tenement in the Bronx. And so every penny that I spend, I try to make sure that we're getting a bang for the buck. That's the background. And when somebody puts a number of $16 to $17 million on the table and doesn't justify why they're doing it, I guess my back is turned up against that. And so with that background, that's the purpose I'm here tonight. I'm not here to give you a hard time. But when council people, and we'll address that tonight, when council people give us flip answers, that's not really appreciated. With that said, city finances is not something we should take lightly. And when you're spending 16 or 17 million with no other options, it's simply ludicrous to me. Why would you destroy a beautiful neighborhood with a strip mall design? And the answer is simple: because you can. The rush to conclude is simply an attempt to cover up a bad purchase. My plea is to let the citizens benefit from your error. Don't have to punish them for a city mistake. Unfortunately, here in the city, we never have a discussion. We have mandates. We come and talk in front of you, we ask questions, and rarely do we get an answer. In my discussions before council, I ask for facts, and quite frankly, I think you're entitled to see facts. You represent the citizens, and you should be asking questions and demanding answers. It's not up for me to challenge you each and every time. I went back and listened to your answers, why your reasons for picking the Flythe property as the one and only choice that you had, because that's the only choice you were given. One option was off the table before it was started. We have used an architectural firm that has a contract with the city that has no end. How is that working? They have been in power for the last 8.5 years. They come up with designs, and quite frankly, I'm not sure they do the designs themselves. I can share with you, and I will leave you with that tonight, a picture of firehouses in North Carolina that look exactly like the firehouse that's been proposed here. Are they copying these things? Do they have an agreement with another architectural firm? That should be disclosed. Those people represent us. They have credentials. The best I could tell you is that they don't have credentials. From everything I've researched, they have somebody that's good in design work on gardens. Somewhere at 3:59 p.m. this afternoon, I received Mr. Clifford's email, and he answered 2 questions that I had proposed. I sent you, each and every one of you, a copy of all the correspondence that had been going back and forth. And one of the questions was, is it legal for the city to purchase the facility in the TIF district? Second question, is it advisable for the city to purchase the facility? Is it advisable for the city to purchase that facility in the TIF district? Our attorneys, his answer, our attorneys advised that while legal, it was inadvisable to purchase the building based on the loss of revenue as part of the TIF district. Now, I'm not a financial whiz, but there are other options than buying the property, and I would hope we explore that. There's a for rent sign on the building. We can rent that building. You can look it up yourself. For $15, I'm sorry, can I have a few more minutes?
You can.
You can rent that building for $15 a square foot. If you do the calculation times 30,000 square feet, that comes to $450,000 a month to rent it. Why don't we just rent it? Let's work in arrangement with the MEDAC people. I'm sure their contract is longer than the period of time that we would want it for. If not, I'm sure when we went back to talk to Mr. Greenstone, he'd be willing to sell us the building or do something. But it never seems that we reach those options. We always take what somebody else offers. I think it behooves each and every one of you to do the due diligence that I'm doing right now. That's not my job. My job is not due diligence. My job is to listen to the information that you present to the citizens and then come to my own conclusions. And right now, there seems to be a lack of follow-through. And I'm not here to chastise you in any way. That's, again, not my job. But I would like to see a little bit more thinking from you. You know, questions like MEDAC won't work. Well, why? Why won't it work? You need to think about what you're saying before you say it. Mr. Presnell, you made a couple of statements, financial statements. You throw around millions of dollars as if they were, you know, it's going to take millions of dollars to do this. And excuse me, I need to do, I don't expect you to answer me. And I don't mean to conduct my interview with you alone.
Just direct it to me if you don't mind.
In any case, when a councilman throws out and says it's going to cost millions of dollars, I would expect somebody to challenge him. Why does things cost millions of dollars without any basis of fact? Everything that I ever did in business was based upon reality. If I ever walked into my boss and said it was going to cost $4 million, he would say, show me. And that's all I'm asking. Okay, and I appreciate the time you've given me. We beat this to death. There's no question about it. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Mayor Britton has given me the time to speak, and I think we're finished talking. I think I would like to do is to evaluate Mr. Clifford's email that came at 10 to 4 to me, and not have a vote tonight, and let the citizens think a little bit more about this, because he mentioned just purchase, and there are other options besides purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. All right, who's next? Anybody else? Come on down. Okay. All right, so here's a citizen comment. So anybody else? Come on down. Come on down, Steve. You're tall, you're going to have to raise that.
Stephen Bryant, 129 Butler Avenue. I'd like to correct some information that was put out at last council meeting by council so we can get the facts. It seems that this project from day one has been predicated on misleading information, misdirection, and not fully evaluating the facts and the reality of the code. It was stated that if this property were to be sold to a regular developer, he could put a temporary house up there and that wouldn't look good. Straight from the ordinance, contemporary development is inappropriate. It was also stated that you couldn't have a restaurant there because it would close at 7 p.m. Well, you've got the Sunshine Grill, only serves breakfast and lunch. The River House, which I think only serves lunch when it did. But let me actually read you the ordinance. For the record, for the facts. Business hours of operation shall be limited to the period from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., not 7 p.m. Another thing that was stated was you couldn't build the houses that are already existing around there because it's limited to 3,000 square foot. That's not true. The ordinance says it's a 3,000 square foot footprint. It's a 2.5-story building. 3,000 on the first floor, 3,000 on the second floor, and a half on the first. That can give you 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. Put in a basement, I'm up to 10,000 to 11,000 square feet. You can build those same homes there. And what you said last week, Mayor, was only half true about having citizen involvement. We had citizen involvement on the Seven Gables property. There was none on the Buena Vista site. Now, the previous mayor reluctantly and half-heartedly had a citizen input for the fire station. The consultant you hired had a retaining wall on that project. After getting citizen involvement, and the reason I say it was only half-hearted is because only 60% of council showed up and the mayor didn't show up. But what was brought and presented to at that point in time was a plan to eliminate the wall. So why wasn't citizen input looked into for the Buena Vista site? Because there's somebody out there that probably could have figured out how to make it work without a retaining wall, and that would have changed all the numbers as skewed as they were. That's kind of, you've all have made up your mind. Half of you have had your mind made up for over 3 years. You stated so. And so I don't expect any of these facts or information to change your mind. I don't expect the Planning Commission's unanimous decision recommending against this to change your mind at this point. But I would ask that you would do us a favor, those that get involved, and do yourself a favor to save time. Let's put the agenda out a little bit earlier, maybe 4 or 5 days, because it takes time to research, look up the codes, get the information. And for items for which you have no intention of actually evaluating what citizens say, and you've already made up your mind, put an asterisk by it. That way we don't spend our time fighting something that's not going to change, and then the projects will go through faster. I think that would be more efficient for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Who else? Anybody else? Ms. LaFavor coming out? You have to lower it, sir.
I can operate this thing.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Thank you. Alan LaFavor, 125 Butler Avenue in North Augusta, in a historic district, in a neighborhood overlay. And the city may not recognize it as a historic district, but the state does. They did in 1984. My house, along with 11 other buildings, is listed as contributing to that. Okay, how about that? My home with 11 others are listed as contributing to that historic district. And I value my property. My wife and I bought that house in 1980. It was called Sunshine Cottage. The Nancy Carson Library inherited that building. Nancy Carson started the library in North Augusta. She and her husband built that home as a winter cottage. They were from Massachusetts. He was a civil engineer, and she started the library in the basement of the North Augusta Elementary School at the time. And of course, now we know it's moved out on Highway 25. And they found in his will that they left that home to the library. And they rented it for quite a while. And my wife and I bought it in 1980. Been in that home since then. When I bought it, the laundry room, the roof leaked. You could see the sky. The side walls, you could look out and see the woods. We've done quite a bit of work on it. Still requires work. It's an old house. It's over 100 years old. But we love it. And we love our street. We got the Star of Edgefield on one end and a house that was owned by one of the Mealings on the other end. There's a Butler family cemetery on that side of the road. And like I said, all of our neighbors value that property. Shortly after I moved in, my wife was diagnosed with a melanoma. In and out of the hospital a couple of times. Recovered. They didn't recommend that we had any children. But after being free from that for several years, the doctors thought that would be fine. So we were blessed with a little blonde baby girl in 1985. She's grown up now to be a nurse in Alabama. Later, when she was 18 months old, I buried my wife and an infant son shortly before Christmas. We lived alone for a while in the house until 1995. I met my present wife, and we've been there ever since. She had a son close to the same age as my daughter, and we had two only children, but they seem to get along. He's a pilot. As I said, my wife's a nurse. Both of them have told us, we've mentioned selling the house and moving, and both of them have told us, well, you can't do that. And we said, well, why? Because we grew up there. And I said, well, you going to move back up here or what? Well, I don't know. You just can't sell it. So we haven't, not necessarily because they recommended that, but we enjoy it. We were told that the neighbors had been spoken to about the fire station up there and also about public safety building. I have not been contacted at my home, and the neighbors on either side have not. So maybe it was just the one adjoining property owners. Okay. Not my phone. The one on one of the adjoining property owners has been very much against this, but he's not been able to come to the meetings, and I think we read his letter on 2 occasions. He's tending a very sick wife and just not able to come. He's lived in that house, I believe he said he built it in 1984, and it does adjoin the property. The lady in the house, the Star of Edgefield, and her property adjoins the Butler family cemetery. Maddie Mealing Butler is buried there. She was the daughter of the man that owned built the Star of Edgefield, Butler. And she's the one that sold James U. Jackson the 5,000-something acres to build the city of North Augusta. That's right. And this lady and her husband that lived there just buried their son last month in that cemetery where her husband's also buried. the house next door to me on one side belonged to a former mayor of North Augusta, Carlton Vaughn. And his picture's out there on the wall. And he passed away the January after my first wife died in December. Of course, he doesn't live there now. Have a new neighbor there. I just want each one of you to think about, I don't know how long you've lived in your home, whether you live in a historic area, probably not. If you like your home, they say most people move every 7 years as an average. We haven't moved. Don't intend to. We're satisfied with our house and our neighborhood. When you vote tonight, you have the opportunity to help preserve that neighborhood, or, in my opinion, to ruin the property value, to create extra traffic. By the way, the traffic study was done was for 20 or 30 cars at 2 times a day coming and going. Why do they have 169 parking spaces? Where are all those cars? They're going to study them. There will be a tremendous amount of extra traffic on Butler and on Observatory, especially with the fire station going up on Observatory and Martintown. So I'm just saying you need to consider other things than what seems to be an urgency now after, when did this start being discussed? 2013? Somewhere back then. And a lot of things got done. The ball stadium got built.
Ms. LaFavor, I've been, we're familiar with that, so I've let you go way over because I want to be very cognizant of your concerns.
Okay.
I appreciate it. So
Thank you, and congratulations, Kelly.
Appreciate it, Ms. LaFavor. Who else? So, no other citizen comments? Okay. Council discussion? Okay. Excuse me?
Well, I'll go ahead and go. Mr. Alardi, you asked a question, said I'm just throwing numbers out there. You can Google it. You can call a commercial contractor. Renovation costs are between $300 to $400 per square foot. So at 30,000 square foot, that's $9 to $12 million just off renovation cost. You know, could be a little lower, could be a little higher. It's just, I'm not just saying it's millions of dollars, but that's what it costs. I'm in the construction business, and renovation costs are usually generally 3 times higher than cost of new construction. You know, so I'm not just throwing numbers out there.
Yeah,
It's still, but it's still, I'm just saying, on average, like I said, it could be lower, could be higher.
Okay, Mr. President, we aren't gonna get in debate with
Right.
anybody, so make your statement.
But that's basically
That's your
all I
statement.
wanted, you know, you had
Okay.
asked, and that's where I got that from.
That's good, thank you. Who's next?
I guess I'll go. I just wanted to also state that I was not at the first reading of this vote for 2 weeks ago. My dad passed away this past month, so this is my first week coming back, and I've spent the week getting myself back up to speed and researching and everything, and I appreciate everybody that did reach out to me during that time. But on this topic, you know, we have been discussing it for some time, and I live around the corner on East Avenue, so I'm close by to the public safety building. But I think over the years, that we have looked at several locations, previous council before me, and this one was presented as the number 1 or 2 option. And when the Buena Vista site became unable to expand upon, that is what made my decision know that that site was not going to be a choice. I feel like North Augusta will be growing, and expansion will always be necessary. I also think that it is really important. I value the neighborhood and I value your homes. And I think that it is our job to be sure that if we do put this public safety building there, that we maintain the design and the green space and preserve those historic buildings. I think that's very important, and I think that we can make it something nice and hopefully a win-win. I think that the public safety department deserves the best and on a great property. I think that they are who we reach out to in emergencies and who help us through every storm that comes, and I think that they deserve a nice location. And I think if it's done properly and through citizen involvement and design, that we can make something great, hopefully, out of this.
Thank you. Who else?
I mean, I'll go. I honestly, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add beyond what I said at the last meeting. You know, the lack of a feasibility study, you know, technically we could do feasibility studies on lots of different properties because there probably are lots of other options. But I come back to the fact that, you know, again, as Jennifer said, I mean, we've been talking about this for so long. We've got a need. We've got a piece of property that was acquired, whether you agree with how it was acquired or not. I mean, I certainly understand some of those concerns, but it was acquired to build a public safety station. I'd hoped that we had a compromise that would avoid that, but, you know, again, not to parrot what's already been said, I don't, outside of the additional cost, the lack of expansion, and the other issues involved with that property, make me feel like that, in my judgment, that's not a property that in 20 years we'll be glad we bought or built on. You know, I think that rules Buena Vista out. And beyond the renovation expenses and the perpetual lease expenses of leasing and building, I know that it's done in other places, capital leases and other things. It has been done. Those are options. I'm not going to advocate for us leasing a public safety facility. I don't think that's a wise long-term decision for us to make. You know, so outside of just starting the process all over and looking for other properties, I think we've got our choice. I certainly don't want us, you know, doing that opens opens everything back up again to have an indefinite time period in which we're going to find that next property that works, when public safety has been saying from the beginning, at least since I've been following it, that the property needs to be in this general location and they need the type of facility that they need that this property would facilitate. You know, there are restrictions on that as to what can be done. I see Steve's left, but he's absolutely right. I mean, there are restrictions. So it's not like anything can pop up on that site if we decide to pass on this. But I also do think it's the best option that at least offers an opportunity to save the two properties that are on there. And I don't know that if we sell it, regardless of what ends up there, that there's any opportunity for that to happen. So I know that's probably a shallow victory in some ways, but it's something. You know, so outside of that, I just don't have a whole lot to add beyond what I said last time. But I'm going to support this. I think of the options that we have in front of us, it's the best option we have available.
Thank you, Mr. Toole. Who else?
Thank you all for your comments tonight. It's been a quite interesting project for the last 7 years. And most of what you said has been repeated numerous times before. I supported the purchase of this property from the get-go because I knew from studies that had been done by public safety that the top of the hill was the best place for fire trucks and headquarters. We sort of split it a little bit, try to appease some folks, and put the fire station on Martintown Road. That was not my choice, but I supported it. As far as the Buena Vista site, it's landlocked. It has a easement that runs directly through the middle of the property that gives the adjoining property owner access to his property. Now, if he were to develop his property, then that easement would have to be used for driveways. And the way that project has been platted out on paper is that's a major parking lot for that facility on Buena Vista Avenue. So that doesn't work. And there's no room there for any more expansion. And as we grow in the city, public safety is going to grow. And they will need more space as well. Whereas the property, y'all have been calling the Blythe property, so I will use that as well. There's space there for additional buildings as shown on some of the existing plans. I think and I'm sorry that you folks have known all along where I stood from the get-go. Because of these reasons I have stated, it's just an opportunity for the city to do something that should have been done many, many years ago with regards to public safety. They have been the stepchild for many years, and now you're no longer a stepchild. You should be number one, you and your department. So I support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tonight we're doing the public use, and will still stand on the fact that I think this is the best use for the property for us at this time. You know, I was on council with Mr. Brooks, in 2016 when we made the purchase, and you know, we don't buy speculative properties. We buy properties for a purpose. We have sales tax funds that were set aside to purchase and build a facility, and we're following that pattern. That sales tax was voted on by the public. So, you know, we have the responsibility to spend that based off of what we've submitted to the county and to the citizens. So we're just following through, in my eyes, you know, a path that's been set forward for a long time. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel comfortable to everybody, and I understand that. And probably if I lived next door, it probably wouldn't feel very comfortable to me either. But I don't believe there'll be a bad neighbor. I do believe that everybody here on council is going to agree to push to see what kind of pleasant design that we can do and changes that we can make. I think that's something that we'll have to visit very closely. I can't commit to saying that it's going to look a certain way, but I think everybody on here would agree that you know, if we can do some things to make it look a little better or fitting for the area, that we will. So, you know, I just want to say that, you know, I kind of get a little upset, a little hurt when people say that we don't think about these things, because even though this may be a part-time thing for us to come up here once a week, it's always on my mind. It's something that I drive through town and I think about all the time and talk to people all the time about it. And it's, you know, I didn't run for council for a silly reason. I love the city of North Augusta. I've worked in the community CSRA for over 20-something years. I worked with Richmond County, Aiken County, Edgefield, and when the opportunity came for me to move to North Augusta, I did it. I jumped on it. And I will tell you that out of all the communities that I've worked with, this is the best. And I say that from the contractor side. And I think we're just making a very good choice. And like I said, I know it doesn't feel comfortable to everybody, but it's something that, you know, we really set forth back in 2016 in reality. And we're just following through with what we needed to do. Thank you.
And of course, I'm like Bob. I have been from the beginning this property. I did not vote for the property on Martintown Road, voted against it. And I think this still is, and we do appreciate people coming. But we have worked on this project for 6 years, 7 years, and we've talked about it North Augusta Forward. Now, that's not the North Augusta Forward now. It was the original North Augusta Forward that Charles Martin started for us, that we would go on little retreats and meetings and talk about this. And as someone said on this end, I will say the fire people and the police were really always put on the back burner. I mean, even when we were talking about bulletproof vests and things like this and how many you would get per year and things like this. So sometimes you just felt like the police and firemen were put back. But I feel in my heart this is the right place, and I'm sure, you know, some people don't, but I feel like the majority of citizens in this city do feel like this is the right place. And I lived by the fire station and police station as a child, and I had a drinking father that I had to call a lot to come. And thank God they were 2 minutes from me. And so, like I said, it did not bother us living there by the police station and fire department. But like I said, I'm going to vote tonight, support this, and I just pray that this city moves forward and we have something wonderful for our police, and not only them, but our citizens. The main thing in this city is our citizens are safe, and that comes above all else in this city. Thank you.
I was real clear my reason why I voted for it last time, and again, all I'll just say is that I was elected to represent 25,000 people, and I look at this when it's all comes down to is what are we doing to put our public safety in the best position and give them the best resources to take care of this community. And that's the most important thing for me. And we have tried to stress again, we have asked for your design input. We have already made changes on the building. We're going to continue to ask for your input. We are going to work to save the 2 historical buildings. So we do care about history. We're saving the 2 buildings. If we don't, they are going to fall down. And we all here thought the idea by Dave Leverett about having some green space on the on the Butler Avenue side, and doing something in a way to have some green space and some type of information about history of that area. So that's our goal, that we want to achieve that. We don't know what that's going to look like till we get into it, but we want to do that. So I think we have done our due diligence. And I will say this for you, Fred, you know, there are always going to be situations, and we've had several of them, where we're just going to agree to disagree. And all I'm going to say about the leasing is, I just don't believe you lease public property for a municipality. I don't. It doesn't matter. I don't believe you do that. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't care what the cost is. You don't do that. So I'm not in favor of that. Doesn't matter what. We don't even need to not go down there. So anyway, we thank everyone for coming tonight. Like I said, everybody's had 5 opportunities. There's still going to be opportunities as we move into the design piece. So I'm very thankful for your input. So at this point, if there's no other conversations from council, I would ask for a vote. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10, resolution number 2021-41, resolution directing the city administrator to take action to begin final design for development of the public safety headquarters on the on the 4.45 plus or minus acres of property owned by the city, known as Aiken County tax parcel numbers 007-07-06-003, 007-07-06-004, and 007-07-06-005. Do you have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
There's a first by
Second.
Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Presnell. Anything you want to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On the resolution itself, a lot of the resolution is the history of how we got to where we are now relative to these properties for the public safety headquarters. But I will move down to the meat of this, which is essentially the direction from the city council to the city administrator. And I'll read directly, which is to commence immediately the finalization of the design for the construction of the public safety headquarters on the identified parcels, those being the ones on Georgia Avenue. The second of which is to conduct one or more public sessions to receive citizen input related to the building design. So, Mr. Mayor, as you talked about, we would like to make sure we, as we move through the design process, have the ability for our citizens to continue to refine, what the output will be as far as the building itself, and then also to consult with and receive input from various nonprofit agencies that are interested in the preservation and restoration of the existing Flythe and carriage house structures on Observatory Avenue. And in my discussion with some of the nonprofits, as they are prepared to step in pretty quickly to start doing some roof remediation or things they can do to stabilize the buildings on a short-term basis. And this would allow me to enter into discussions and agreements with those nonprofits to allow them to have access to those facilities for the purpose of preserving them.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any citizen comments? Yes, sir. If you would come down, state your name and address for the record, please.
Make sure this is the right height.
Yeah, you better move up a little bit.
I'm Lenny Burt. I live at 113 East Arlington. It's the corner of East and Arlington. It's good to be with y'all tonight, Council, and Kelly. Congratulations again. That's an outstanding achievement. Just wanted to touch base on the design of the project. I'm a conservationist at heart, and I actually think that even though we're a growing city, we have a natural heritage in this city that we ought to think about. And on the property there, specifically the portion of the property where the Seven Gables was located, if y'all been there before, y'all seen some massive magnolia trees. We have some big cedar trees. At the corner of Georgia and Butler, I think it's a deodar cedar tree. And if I identified that correctly, those trees can live to be up to 600 years old. So I just wanted to speak out and just ask that as we design this project, we try to save as much of that as possible, because it's really irreplaceable, in my opinion. Because, I don't think any of us will get to see a 100-year-old magnolia tree again. Maybe when you retire. I'm kidding. But anyway, I would just ask that when we go through this design, that we think about that, and maybe even go to another step. If we can't preserve some of these trees, maybe we could plant something similar on other city property that's not going to be developed. If we have to take down a big magnolia tree, a big cedar tree, we basically make it kind of, I guess you could say, tree neutral to do the project. And the other thing I would mention, and I'll wrap it up, I'm also an advocate for small animals, which my friend Bill Hickson will tell you, we've worked on some projects together. And there's a lot of, if you're familiar with lantana flowers on the property, there's a patch there that would cover just about this whole area. Now you think, okay, that's flowers, but that's a very important pollinator site. You've got butterflies there, you have bees, you have hummingbirds. And I know we have the butterfly garden here behind, over here by the dog park. Maybe we can incorporate something similar on this green space that you were talking about on the property, just to watch out for some of our native animals that are using that property right now. So I want to thank you again for hearing me out, and I also make myself available if I can volunteer, help out with any of this. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
That's great.
Thank you.
Lenny, great ideas. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, if we can make sure we have your contact information before the end of the session tonight, because we'll add you to the list of folks to be invited to design sessions on the site.
Lenny, that's great information. Thank you. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay. Any council discussion? All right. Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, thank you. Okay. Still under new business. Item 11, zoning. Ordinance number 2021-15 to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina by rezoning plus or minus 3.67 acres of land owned by Felix Daniel Mackey, Aiken County tax parcel number 006-05-01-024 from R14 large lot single family to R5 mixed residential Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Toole, Mr. McGee. Anything you'd like to add about this, Mr. Clifford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I'll make comments on both this item and the following item as they're related, both properties, items number 11 and 12. And so this went through the Planning Commission process. Planning Commission approved recommendation of the zoning action to come here to you as the City Council. And so the two parcels that are in question this evening are fronting Martintown Road, and they're first, the smaller of the parcels, the one that is the first item, the 3.67 acres, is exclusively fronting Martintown Road, and then the second parcel, the 48 acres, fronts both Martintown and Knobcone. And so this is an area where we're going to see continued growth, and looking right across the street, you're going to see some potential growth, both commercial and residential, in what we call the Hamrick Farms parcel that's behind the Waffle House. And so this whole area is likely to be developed here in the next several years. And so this was a zoning request from the owners, the Mackeys, to be able to have some flexibility to pursue developmental opportunities on this property.
Any citizen comments? Well, yeah, this is an opportunity for citizen comments, so. Okay, not hearing any council discussion? Okay, not hearing any, I'll take a vote, all in favor, and that is unanimous. Thank you. Item, I said that yes, when I did, that was first reading, yes. Item 12, ordinance number 2021-16 to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina by rezoning plus or minus 48.42 acres of land owned by Felix Daniel Mackey and Forrest Thomas Mackey, Aiken County tax parcel number 006-05-01-001 from R14 large lot single families to R5 mixed residential. Do you have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading? Ms. Carpenter.
Second.
Mr. Brooks, thank you. I believe you've told us all we need to know at this point, Mr. Clifford. Nothing else you want to add?
Yes, sir. I think my comments from the last item were inclusive for both.
Okay. Any citizen comments? Okay, not hearing any council discussion?
I have a question for the Mackeys. Is your house remains R14? Does it? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So no other conversation from council?
I mean, the only thing I would say is that I said it in the study session last week, is that, we're looking at a property that has R7 across the street and everything is moving. The property on the corner that, what'd you call that, Hammond, what'd you call that one?
Hamrick Farms, Councilman?
Hamrick Farms, and I've seen that over the years, how the interest has been on that one. So I really just don't think this is, something that is out of place. I think it's appropriate. I think it's timely. I just don't have any objections really to it. I hope, I've assumed that they'll do something really nice. They always do. So I'm in favor for this thing.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? And I will say this, I don't even think that I don't do my homework. I pulled up the Article 3 zoning district, and there are about 25 items that could be zoned R5 mixed residential that are permitted. And as you start going down this line, and because of the caliber of the people the Mackeys are and what they've done in this community, I just think there's going to be very few of these things that they're going to want to put next to their house. So I think the realistic items that they would want to do would fit in nicely. So I'm totally in favor of it. I think it's a great use of that property, and glad they're going forward with it. So no discussion at this point. I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you all. Okay. Item 13, Information Technology, Resolution Number 2021-42, a resolution authorizing a professional services agreement for Office 365 migration. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Toole, a second?
Second.
Ms. McCauley, we'll get her on the record tonight. Anything you want to share, Ms. Clifford?
Yes, sir. So for the council members and our citizens at home, what is before you is a resolution authorizing a professional services agreement for our Office 365 migration with the firm VC3, which is an approved vendor through Municipal Association of South Carolina. And so the way I look at this is our IT director has already moved forward to procure a .gov website, which has been approved. And that is an actual process through multiple agencies to have that squared away. And when I look at the region, we're one of the few municipalities or counties in the CSRA that does not have a .gov website. So we're looking to move our infrastructure into a .gov domain. And then the second part of that is to move our email addresses from our current .net and move it into a .gov setup over a long period of time, probably a year. But what this contract allows us to do, this agreement, is to move our items into the cloud. So right now you have a number of IT services that are provided out of the headquarters here, which is not, in my opinion, a tenable situation in the long term. So this allows us a more professional and robust and more cyber protected setup in the long term. This was something that was approved in the budget for 2021, and now we want to move forward on this to execute that plan. So that's all the comments, but I'm certainly open to any questions from the council members.
Any citizen comments? Okay, any council discussion or questions from council, Mr. Clifford? Mr. Brooks?
I do. I believe many years ago, in my tenure with the city, when we first started with the computers, we used VC3 as the selected vendor, and they did an outstanding job getting the city up and running for the first time with computers. So they've been around quite a while, and I do support this.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I hear any other discussion. I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Very good. Thank you. Any administrative reports?
No, sir.
Okay. We're now at item 15, presentation, communication, recognition of visitors. This is citizen comments on anything that's not listed on the agenda. So are there any folks here who have anything in particular they would like to share with council? This is your opportunity. Okay. I've got a few things I need to mention, so before I do it, any comments from anybody? Yeah, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Clifford, there were several comments in the packet from neighbors who live adjacent to Knobcone Avenue, and they were concerned about truck traffic, commercial truck traffic going through that neighborhood. Is there any way we can look at that and, first of all, make sure the road is built for commercial truck traffic? I don't know that it is. And secondly, maybe we need to prevent commercial truck traffic or reroute them a different way. Just a question I'd like for you to research. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I would tell you, at least as an initial answer, although the more fully researched answer with Tom Zeser, is that the current plan to be able to help out with our traffic in that area is to pursue a traffic light at Knobcone and Martintown Road. That's not going to prevent commercial truck traffic from going down that road, but it will meter the speed associated with traffic going into that neighborhood. And ultimately, what we're hoping to accomplish is to provide a safer way for our students and our faculty at North Augusta High School, along with the residents, to be able to exit Knobcone, onto West Martintown. But we'll take a look more fully at your question. But that's the short answer I can give you tonight for the council and for our citizens at home.
Thank you. Good question. Okay, just a couple items. This has been posted. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is a notice of assembly of members of City Council for observation and receipt of information. This document that I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to highlight, has been posted on the city website. This Friday on October the 8th, the mayor and members of the city council will travel to Travelers Rest, South Carolina for the purpose of observing and receiving information. Specifically, council will tour portions of the Swamp Rabbit Trail and also the downtown area of Travelers Rest. The Swamp Rabbit Trail is a greenway, walkaway, recreational area that runs through a large portion of Greenville County. The trail has been integrated into the downtown city of Travelers Rest and has had a positive impact on commercial development. Council members will travel by private vehicles, but we will, of course, be together once we get there, and that would be a quorum. But this information is on the city website, so I did want to let folks know about that. Couple things. I'm telling you guys, people are getting excited. If on the website, the mayor website, which is www.northaugusta.net/mayor, there's a citizen involvement form. So Lenny, what you need to do is go to that and fill out that citizen involvement form. I've received 3 citizen involvement forms this week, and one came from a young lady and her son who came to the Meet the Mayor meeting. So this council is committed to give citizens an opportunity. We've got to figure out, once you tell us, hey, I want to be involved, we got to figure out where that fits. But we are gathering that information. So that there's a form, if you are interested, go to www.northaugusta.net/mayor and fill out that form, okay? I think it's important. The proposed FY22 city budget has been posted on the city's website. You can view the budget, the public hearing announcement, as well as the schedule. So that's all posted now. And the last thing is, I'm real excited, the citizen committee that was formed to work on our river event, they have met and had several meetings, and there's a survey which is now open through the end of October, and you can find that on www.northaugusta.net. It's first thing on the right. And this is an event that you, the citizen, are going to determine what does that event look like. And they're basically broken down into 3 distinct features. A competition event in the water, what do you want that to be? And there was a list here for you voting on. Live music at the amphitheater, and there's some information about the type of music, and a community celebration along the riverbank. So the citizens of North Augusta, South Carolina, the 25,000 citizens are going to have a voice to say, this is the event that we're going to put in our budget for 2022 for the citizens to have an event on the river. This is your chance to tell us and vote on what you want to have happen, and that's now available on the website. So I'm excited. I'm thankful for Rachel and Rick and our 3 citizens who have worked toward this, and they will continue to work toward it. So I think that's really exciting news. So that is actually all I have at this point. So if there's nothing else.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Since you did say there would be a quorum of us at Travelers Rest, do we need to let citizens know there will be no decisions taken?
And yes, ma'am. Thank you. That is written on here.
Okay, all right. Just because I don't want
to
get out of town and go to making decisions.
Yeah,
okay, and then
good question. Thank you.
and this is the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee. I know that's history and decisions made. We're not having it. A lot of citizens are very disappointed in that. I've just talked to people over and over, and one of the things, it maybe give me an answer to tell them, is that we all go to football games, Clemson, Georgia. We're right there together. Why can't this be? All right. And Mr. Martin, since you're here, is there going to be a festival downtown sponsored by North Augusta Forward? I've heard that. Okay. All right. So, but like I said, is there and I know we all know it's COVID, this is the back, but is there something, because a lot of citizens are, since people are getting out, going to ball games and doing, and what's the difference in not having the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee and doing that?
I can certainly address that, Councilwoman, if you'd like. I think the rationale that we're dealing with is the events that you've mentioned that are football games or things inside SRP Park or whatever are either private or other governmental events that do not require city staff. And so ultimately, when we look at our overall COVID rates in the city, the number of public safety officers that may be available for duty or not available for duty based on illness or quarantine, along with our Parks and Rec folks, really kind of helped determine for us whether or not we wanted to accept the risk of deadlining a number of the city employees, for a 14-day window after Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee. And so ultimately, I'm not prepared to talk our overall, health statistics tonight, but I would tell you that that was a determining factor of our inability to provide basic city services after the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee. And that was a major concern for the committee, and I backstopped that decision or recommendation and went with that decision.
And one more thing, just so citizens, someone had talked about the growth overlay on the road at Knobcone and Pisgah that I emailed you about, and I presume that's been taken care of. And I haven't been by the road.
I believe James's crew took care of that today, but I'd have to defer to James.
Okay, thank you, James.
Pat, just one thing I'll say, echo Jim is, and I stated that before, and I've stated it in my blog, that I believe that every municipality, every organization, whether it's a private or public, and every citizen, based on their scope of responsibility within their entity, has to make the decision that's best for them. And our city made the decision best, and we've supported that. So that's just for citizens. But yeah, thank you for bringing that
with
up.
me, but I would just like to, to be able to respond. Thank you.
That's good.
Just like she said, had a lot of people ask that question, so I'm glad we got a couple of reasons out there.
Fantastic. Okay. Y'all stay. We're gonna get a picture with Kelly. Something in a positive note with Kelly's ears picture with all of us. Okay. We stand adjourned.